A chill has swept across Europe, not from winter, but from a warning out of Germany. The air feels heavier, as if the continent itself is holding its breath, waiting for what comes next. In Berlin, a city shaped by the scars of history, a new sense of unease is settling in. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has declared that Russia could be ready to attack a NATO member as soon as 2028, or even earlier. His words, delivered with grave urgency, have sent shockwaves through European capitals. Pistorius is not known for alarmism. His warning is rooted in careful analysis and a deep concern for the future of the continent. This statement shattered any lingering sense of post-Cold War security, forcing Europe to confront its readiness for conflict. For years, many believed that large-scale war on the continent was a relic of the past. Now, that illusion has been broken, replaced by a sobering reality. Peace is fragile, and the threat of war is no longer unthinkable. Pistorius's message, based on intelligence and military analysis, warns that Russia's war economy is more resilient than expected. Despite sanctions and international pressure, Russia has managed to keep its military machine running, adapting quickly to new challenges. This resilience has caught many Western analysts off guard, raising urgent questions about Europe's own preparedness. The peace Europe has enjoyed for decades now hangs by a thread, with some officials whispering that last summer may have been our last of peace. Everyday life continues, children play in parks, families stroll through city streets, but beneath the surface, anxiety is growing. The possibility of conflict is no longer a distant echo from the past, but a looming shadow over the present. The timing is critical, as the war in Ukraine rages and tensions with Moscow reach new heights. The devastation in Ukraine serves as a stark reminder of what is at stake. Each day, the conflict inches closer to Europe's borders, and the risk of escalation grows. The world is watching, but for those in Europe, the threat feels immediate and personal. The warning is a wake-up call. Europe must move beyond rhetoric and take real steps to bolster its defenses. Political leaders are meeting behind closed doors, military exercises are intensifying, and alliances are being tested. The time for complacency is over. The stakes are simply too high. The countdown has begun. Are NATO members truly prepared? The answer may determine the fate of the continent in the years to come. Minister Pistorius's urgency comes from a sobering look at Germany's own military. Years of underfunding have left the Bundeswehr with damaged infrastructure and a critical shortage of troops. The army, once large, has been drastically reduced since the Cold War, leaving Germany vulnerable. Equipment readiness is another major issue. Many tanks, helicopters, and aircraft are not combat-ready. While Germany has launched a massive modernization fund, the process is slow, and time is running out. Pistorius's candor is a strategy to rally public and political support for urgent reforms. He's making it clear. The era of underinvestment is over, and rebuilding the military is now a national priority. Germany must act now to close the dangerous gap between its current state and what's needed for real deterrence. Germany isn't just warning, it's acting, taking bold steps to transform its military for a new era of security challenges. The government has unveiled a sweeping plan to overhaul the Bundeswehr, aiming to address both immediate threats and long-term defense needs. Central to this blueprint is a dramatic expansion of the reserve force. By 2030, Germany wants to boost its reserves to 200,000 troops, an ambitious target designed to close the critical personnel gap and ensure the military can respond rapidly to crises. But numbers alone aren't enough. Modern technology is at the heart of the transformation, with a special focus on advanced drones and unmanned systems. These innovations are inspired by hard lessons learned from recent conflicts, especially the war in Ukraine, where technology has proven decisive. Infrastructure is also getting a major upgrade. Reinforcing bridges, modernizing railways, and improving transport routes are all underway, ensuring that troops and equipment can be moved quickly and efficiently across the country and beyond. Deep structural reforms are being pushed through to make the Bundeswehr more agile, responsive, and combat-ready. The government is determined to cut through layers of bureaucracy that have slowed decision-making in the past. The ultimate goal is clear: to create a smarter, faster, and more effective military force. It's not just about increasing size, but about building a force that can adapt to new threats and operate seamlessly with allies. This marks a fundamental shift in Germany's strategic posture. After years of caution, Germany is stepping up as a leader in European security, working closely with NATO and EU partners to strengthen collective defense. These sweeping reforms, more troops, cutting-edge technology, and robust infrastructure, send a clear signal. Germany is committed to real, lasting defense improvements, not just symbolic gestures. The message to allies and adversaries alike is unmistakable. Germany is serious about rebuilding its military might and is ready to play a leading role in safeguarding Europe's future. Berlin's warnings have sparked a continent-wide military buildup. The EU's ReArm Europe plan, worth $800 billion, aims to boost defense industries and streamline joint weapons procurement. NATO members are now discussing raising defense spending targets, with some proposing up to 5% of GDP. Countries are racing to order tanks, jets, and air defense systems, refilling arsenals depleted by aid to Ukraine. Germany is leading by example, pledging $11.5 billion in military aid to Ukraine by 2026. Italy and France are also stepping up, with new aid packages and major arms deals for Ukraine. The war in Ukraine has taught Europe the importance of industrial capacity and readiness. The goal, a fortress Europe, ready to deter or confront a resurgent Russia. Moscow has repeatedly dismissed Western warnings as nonsense, brushing off concerns about its military intentions as nothing more than political theater. Russian officials argue that these warnings are exaggerated, designed to stoke fear and justify actions that would otherwise be hard to defend. They accuse the West of deliberately using Russia as a convenient pretext for ramping up military spending, pointing to increased defense budgets and new weapons programs across Europe and North America. According to Moscow, this narrative serves Western interests by uniting allies and channeling resources into the arms industry. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has been adamant that Russia harbors no plans to attack NATO, dismissing such claims as baseless and rooted in Cold War paranoia. He calls the warnings nothing more than militaristic rhetoric, intended to whip up public anxiety and justify further military deployments near Russia's borders. Russian officials claim the West is manufacturing a threat, using the specter of Russian aggression to distract from their own domestic challenges and political divisions. By focusing attention on an external enemy, they argue, Western leaders can rally support at home and justify costly rearmament programs that might otherwise face public resistance. In response, Russian officials warn that NATO's ongoing military buildup along its borders could force Moscow to take countermeasures to ensure its own security, raising the stakes even further. Maria Zakharova, the outspoken Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, frames Western statements as part of a calculated campaign to prepare their populations for confrontation and to justify the enormous costs of military expansion. Russia's repeated warnings of a full-force response to any NATO attack, including the possibility of using advanced weaponry and even nuclear threats, are meant to underscore just how high the stakes have become in this standoff. This ongoing clash of narratives only deepens mistrust between Russia and the West, making diplomatic solutions more elusive. Each side now views the other's moves as increasingly aggressive, interpreting defensive measures as preparations for attack. The result is a dangerous cycle of action and reaction, where every step taken in the name of defense is seen as a provocation, fueling a spiral of escalation that threatens to spin out of control. The war in Ukraine is intensifying, fueling fear and mistrust between Russia and the West. Recent Russian missile and drone attacks on Kyiv have killed civilians, hardening Western resolve. On the front lines, Russia presses its advantage in the east, with fierce battles in towns like Pokrovsk. Each Russian gain sends anxiety through neighboring NATO countries. The conflict is drawing in international actors. North Korean troops have reportedly joined Russian operations, deepening the global stakes. For the West, Ukraine is a case study in Russian aggression and a warning of what could come next. The belief, if Russia succeeds in Ukraine, it won't stop there. Supporting Ukraine is seen as defending the entire European security order. The conflict is spilling over Ukraine's borders, raising the risk of direct NATO-Russia confrontation. A Russian attack damaged a vessel near Romania, prompting evacuations and highlighting the war's proximity to NATO territory. In Poland, suspected sabotage on railways has heightened fears of hybrid warfare targeting NATO's logistics. These incidents force NATO to balance strong responses with avoiding escalation. For frontline states like Poland and Romania, The threat feels immediate and personal. The psychological impact is profound. Explosions and evacuations make the war real for millions. Public demand for a stronger NATO presence is growing. The case for urgent military strengthening is now both strategic and a public demand for security. Two competing narratives now define Europe's security crisis. Germany and its allies warn of a revanchist Russia, citing attacks in Ukraine and incidents near NATO borders as proof of Moscow's ambitions. Massive military spending is framed as a necessary defense against a clear and present danger. Russia, meanwhile, denies any intent to attack NATO, calling Western warnings propaganda and blaming NATO's expansion for rising tensions. Moscow claims its actions are defensive, forced by Western aggression and encirclement. Both sides see themselves as reacting to the other's threats, fueling a perilous spiral of escalation. Each defensive move is seen as an offensive threat by the other. The result: a security dilemma where mistrust and military buildup make conflict more likely. Is the threat of a Russian attack real, or is it political strategy? Russia's actions in Ukraine and its war economy suggest a genuine danger, especially for frontline states. For many, rearmament is a necessary response to a credible threat and years of underinvestment. Yet, the external threat also unifies populations, justifies spending, and distracts from domestic issues. The rhetoric serves to strengthen NATO and the defense industry, raising questions about motives. The truth is likely a mix. The threat is real, but its communication is deeply political. Europe must prepare, but also avoid turning preparation into a self-fulfilling prophecy. The challenge: navigate this landscape with clarity. Are we hearing the drums of war or the echoes of politics?